Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be covering arrays. So an array is a special object that organizes or stores multiple values or items in a list. Okay, so to write an array, let me declare a variable, call it const, short form for array. We're going to write it in full. So you will declare your variable. Then an array is written by making square braces and then putting in your items. So let me make it an array of strings, maybe A, B, and C. Okay, so that is an array. That's one way of making an array. And each item in this array is individual. Okay, and we can access every item in the array by what they call an index. So an index is the position of every item in the array. Okay, so if I just log to the console, that's going to be array, and then square brackets, and then I'll put 0. Okay, so this is how we access an item at that's how I access an item in an array using its index. So the index here, the position of the first item is 0, position of the second item is 1, the position of the third item is 2. So the counting, the indices or indexes start from 0 and increase onwards. Okay, so that is how I access A. If I want B, I'll put 1 here. You can see it in the console. B is right here. If I want C, I'll put 2. Okay, so that's one way to access items in an array by the indices. So as you can see here, the quotation marks can either be single or double quotation marks. It doesn't matter, right? The other way to access an item by its index. Okay, if you want to know an index of an item in an array, in this case, I'll use a method called indexOf, array.indexOf. In this case, I'll put my A as a string. And I can log this to the console so that we see that console log. That's brackets. Okay, so you can see here the index of A is 5. If I put B, it's going to be 1. Okay, if I put C, it's going to be 3. It's going to be 2. Okay, so the reason why you're seeing these values automatically is that every time I make a change in this file, my HTML page here reloads, which is the HTML page to which my JavaScript is linked. Okay, so I can also determine the length, the number of items that are in the array. And for that, there is a method called length. It's a property actually on the array object called length. So I can, let me log that to the console. Let me put it in a constant, const array length. I'm going to call it, I'm going to say array.length, okay, the length property. And I can just log it to the console. And that's going to give me 3, okay? So my array has 3 items. If I added another item here, another letter, let me say D, the length is going to be 4. So that's the length of the items, the number of items that I have in my array. Okay, so yeah, okay. Next thing that I would want to talk about before I go into the array methods would be, let's do, if I want to get a particular index, array dot last index. So this one gets or sets the length of an array. This is the number 1 or higher than the index. Okay, so it's going to take last index of, I'm going to say B. It's going to give me a value of 4. Let me do that. Let me log it to the console. Sorry. Console.log. It's going to be on line 8. Last index of B will also give me 1, which is the index of B. Okay. Yep. Not sure if that's what I wanted to bring out, but let's move on. Let's move into other stuff. I'll get back to that later on, probably. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is array methods. So there are different methods that you can call on an array to do different manipulations. And for those, we will look at the different types of methods of arrays and arrays. First type of method that I want us to look at is the static method, static methods, static array methods. And these are methods that really don't involve any dynamism. You can, like creating an array. The first one will be, if I want to create an array, I can say const array, and I'll say, let me call this array1. Okay, let me array straight form for array. Just it's going to be new array. So this new array calls the array constructor. There's the array constructor method which you can use to create an array. And for that, I can actually just put in maybe a name. Let me put in a random name. I'll use my surname. And if I'm going to create an array here using that, I can cancel out that array and we see it. I want to create an array from my first name, containing my first name. And you can see I have an array having 1 item, okay, which is my last name, excuse me. And then I can put in my first name. And yes, I'll have an array having 2 names. So that's one way you can construct an array, okay? You can as well just remove the word new and just do that. So the array method, its constructor, you may initialize it with a new keyword or you may not. It will still perform the same function of creating an array. So the other way could be to create const maybe array of numbers. Call it array of nums. Would be array from, okay. And I can say 1, 2, 3. Let me log that to the console. Okay, it's going to be array of nums. 2 is not a function. Okay, let me put my first name. Okay. So this method works with strings, array.form, it works with strings. If I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 as a string, and I say array from this, it's going to give me a string of each of the items, of each of the characters in the string. So it breaks down to 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I get an array of letter strings. Okay. Now I can also say const, say mixed array, and I can use the word array of. Then I can list what I want in my array, what I want my array to contain. I want it to contain a letter, a number, sorry, then a letter, maybe a, maybe another array of maybe animals. Let me say cat, cow, goat. Now let me log that to the console. Mixed array. Okay, so here it is. I have an array here that has 1, which is a number, and then A, which is the letter, and then the other array as the third item, which is down here at line 3. Cat, cow, and goat. So these are called array constructor methods. Use them to make a new array. So they're called static methods. Moving on, let's look at the next type of methods on arrays. And for this, it's going to be called instance methods. So these are methods that perform a single manipulation of the array and give you a result right away, a single result. And for these, I'll use my HTML for demonstration. I want to use buttons to execute my code. So I'll comment this out, and we shall have our 3 buttons here. So the first button that I'm going to take advantage of is the use of instance method. I had earlier planned to use a static method using buttons, but I thought it wasn't necessary. The console could work on it. Okay, so first, let's get a hold of the button. First, let's get hold of a button from HTML. Document.getElementById. That's going to be button 2. It's going to be button 2. Okay, so we're going to use this button to run a function that is going to be running our instance methods, the functions that we're going to be using to run our instance methods. Okay, so let's write a function here. Okay, firstly, let me construct an array of names. Okay, Muhire. Put this in quotes. Nwari, Mutoni, Ishema. Okay, so I have my list of names, an array of names, and I want to do something with this array. The first thing that I want to do is I want to add another name to this array. Okay, so let me write a function that I'm going to invoke to run my method. Call it function add name. And in this function, I want to get my array names. And then there's a method called push. That's the first method. So let me just write it in here, push method. Push method. And I want to add another name to this array. Okay, so I'll push a name, Lisa. Okay, so I can get the count to check just to be sure that the name has been added by, let me put it in a constant here called count. Cost count, and because this can log that to the console.log count, and then I can see my new array with the added name. Let me use template literal, the new array of names. That's gonna be array names. Okay, so now I have my function here in which I'm going to run the push method on the array. So the push method adds an item to the last after the last item in the array. Here the count is going to give me the new number of items or values in my array, and then I want to look at the new array here. Okay, so if I click on this, okay, I need to add an event list now. It's going to be button 1 dot add event list now. It's going to be click, and then I want it to execute my function add name. So if I click add instance name, you'll see here the new array of names is Muhire, Nwari, Mutoni, Shema, and Urisa. So this is my new array having the last name that has been added. And the count is right here, which is 5. Previously, my array had 4 items, 4 names, and now after pushing one more name, I get 5, and then I can have the new array. Okay, so that's one method. The other method that I want us to do is going to be remove name. I want to remove a name. Function remove name. My array. So I want to remove an item from my array. I can just do this. Let me copy this, paste here, and then edit. There is a method called pop, which is going to remove the last name from the array. Now I'm going to put it here, pop, and I want to remove the name that I just added, which is Umurisa. And now it's going to give me my new array of names. Okay, so now let me come here to my button and just change the function that I want to invoke to remove name. So if I click on this function remove name, button 2, so I've removed a name, which is Umurisa, which is I've removed the name. A minute. That's those methods. The new array of names is Muhire and Wari Umutoni. Okay, so once you keep pressing, you keep removing. I already pressed it. If I press again, now I've removed the name that has been removed is Umutoni, and I can see my new array. So in this case, this is going to be removed name, not count. Removed name. So the pop method removes an item and then shows you the item that you removed. Okay. So if I move back here, let me go back to add name. If I run it, I'll have my new array having all the names. Okay, I have all the names, I have Umurisa. If I remove the names, if I click here, I will have the name has been removed. Function remove name. Considered log. It's removed name here. It's logging my function instead. Remove name. I'll have Isham has been removed, and then if I remove name again, we shall see Umutoni has been removed. Okay, so push method adds an item to the end of the array. The pop method removes the last item of the array from the end of the array. So there are other methods to add, how you can add an item. And for those, first of all, let me first comment out this button. I don't need it. The next item, another method that I can use to add an item is called the shift method. It's called the unshift method. Excuse me on that, unshift method. And for those, I'll first comment this out for illustration. Okay, I'll comment this out for illustration, but I'll have my const count. I'm gonna have my array names, and I'll unshift, and I want to add a name. And the name that I want to add is going to be Carissa. Carissa. Let me console log my count. I'm going to be count, and then I want to see my new array after adding the name at the beginning. Okay, let me just do this. I'll copy this so that I don't have to type it. So let's add the name here. Let me run my function. So as you can see, if I add the name using the unshift method, I have the new array. Let me run it one more time. I have the new count of items being 5 because I've added an extra name, which is Carissa, and I can have the array here having the names here. The new array having the name is Carissa here. It shows the names that have now been added to the array. Okay, so those are two ways you can do it. You can add using the push method or the unshift method. So depending on when you run this function, you can decide to when you're going through this code, you can decide to uncomment one. You can decide to comment out one and then run the other one. Another method to remove an item is called the shift method. Shift method. So the shift method removes an item from the beginning of the array. Okay. So I'll have const remove the item. Let me comment out this. Let me copy it and comment it out. For that, I'll call removed name one, removed. Okay, let me put an underscore here. I removed name. This is going to be shift. If I remove the the argument, let's see what it will give us. Okay, so if I put shift, it's going to remove automatically the first name. The new array is going to be item is going to be 6. The new array name is Karisa Umuhire Mutoni Intwari Shema. Should remove the first item. Okay, let me press it again. 7 Umuhire Karisa Mutoni Umurisa. Oh, I'm sorry. I was running the wrong method. I was running the add name. It's going to be remove name. Okay. I was wondering why the numbers are increasing. Coding. Okay, so if I click here, run instance method, I'm actually running this function, removing name. As you can see, I've removed Muhire, which is the first name, which was the first at the list here. I've removed the name Muhire. And the new array now starts from Hwari to Mutoni to Ishema. Okay, it shows these names. If I click on it again, it will remove the second name, which is Hwari. Then it will show Mutoni and Ishema. So the shift method removes the names removes an item from the beginning of the array. And if you keep pressing it, it keeps removing items from that direction until the array is empty. Whereas the pop method removes an item from the end of the array. And if you keep pressing it, you keep removing items in that same direction until the array is empty. Okay, so just like I did in this function, I will uncomment this out so that when you're going through the code, you can decide which one you want to run by commenting out one block and leaving the other. Okay, so that was to do with the instance methods of arrays. The next type of methods on arrays are called iterative methods. Iterative methods. And iteration is to do something over and over again, to go over something over and over again, to repeat. Okay, think of something that I introduced in the previous tutorials called loops. So there are special methods on arrays that are they're special loops that will give us every item in the array, and you can decide what you want to do with it, how you can manipulate it. Okay, so the first method that I'm going to let me create a function that's going to iterate over arrays. Function, we call it iterate over array. And that function is going to do something. So let me first create an array. Yeah. Const array of animals. I'll say cat, dog, rabbit, maybe we say hen, so that they don't limit it to only mammals. Okay, so I have an array of animals. Now let me get hold of this button that I'm going to use to invoke this function. Say const button3, say document get element by ID. That's going to be button3. Button3, and I want to add the click event handler. Button3 that add event listener. It's going to be click, then I'll run this function. Iterate over array. So the first method that I want to look at is called it's going to be the map method, and this returns a new array. So let's say array of animals dot map. So the map method takes in a callback function as the argument, and for that callback function it will be an array. I'm making it an arrow method, an arrow function. Okay, an arrow function. That's going to be my callback function, and I want to do something. So for each item, I want to console log the animal, right? Console.log. So this callback function takes in an argument of an item, of an array item. So I want to log each item to the console. I'll call it the item in the array being shown is then I'll call it item here. So let me click this button, and as you can see, it iterates over every element in this array, or every item, every value, whatever you may want to call it. And then here we log it to the console. I've cat, dog, rabbit, hen. Okay. So if these were numbers, you can actually decide to iterate over every number here and then keep adding it to something. Okay. Let me leave that out to make things simpler for you. I wanted to show something, but it may complicate things a little more for a beginner. So let's move on to another method. The next method that I want to look at, array method, is going to be called the filter method. Filter method. Okay. For that, let me create an array of numbers. Const array of numbers. Let me say that time around, let me run it in. I'm going to start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 20, 20, 50, 52, 55, 56. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 20, 20, 50, 55, 56. Okay. I have an array of numbers. So I want to filter. Let me put this in a different function. Let me copy this. Paste it here. I'm going to modify some stuff. Let me call this filter numbers. Filter nums. Then I'm going to get this out. Okay. I'm going to say array of numbers. Array of numbers dot filter. So the filter method, just like the map method, takes in an argument of a callback function. And that callback function takes in the item and then the index. Okay. So the map method also takes in the callback in the map method also takes in a second argument of the index. but well, you can also console log it here. Maybe if I run it again, you see it. Console.log index of each item being iterated over. So it can give us the index of each item being iterated over. So let me run it here just one more time. Let me move back a little bit for you to show you something. Okay, if I click here, okay, I don't need this button anymore. Okay, showing me an error already because I'm having an event list now on this one. Okay. Okay, let me just leave it for me not to have errors in my code. Okay, going back on this method, the iterate over array method. If I click on it right now, you can see that every item that I iterate over in this array of array of animals, it gives me the index. So my cat is at index 1 and the item is cat. The item is, the cat is at index 0. The item name is cat. The dog is at index 1 and the animal being shown is dog. So in these iterative methods, you usually have the first method being a callback function, of which that callback function is going to be having two arguments itself, the item in the array and then the index of that item. Similarly, we shall use them here in the filter method. Okay. So I can here console.log index. But then I want to have my condition in this filter method. Say if okay, it will have a return method. I want to return a new array whereby the item is going to be whether the item is going to be, let me say the number is greater than 4. Okay, let me pass this into a constant new array nums. Look at the console. New array nums. So let me go to my event listener here and put in my filter items function that I want to run. All right, so if I run this function, I'm running the filter method. So the filter method is going to iterate over every item in the array and check the condition. Okay, as you can see, it starts by iterating from 0. I have the index here 0 up to 10 because I have 10 items in my array, and for each item it checks this condition. So a condition that meets the item, which is the number, being greater than 4, is added to the new array. So it will give me a new array. So here it will return a new array, returns a new array with items that meet the given condition. A given condition. Okay. So it returns a new array with only items that meet that condition. Say if I click here, you will see the new array here. Okay. If I change my condition to items that are greater than 9, that are greater than 10, and I click here, you can see it starts from 20, 20, 20, 20, 50, 55, 56. So this is a way to filter through an array. If you have a very big array, I'll give you a practical example of this. You have an application and you're getting lots of data from the back end, and what you want to display on the screen. Let me say if it's a phone app, what you want to display on the welcome screen is a particular set of data only. So you use the filter method and say maybe I want data of people showing of people of this age, okay? Because when someone signs into an app, they get your biodata, and that's like everyone has a person object back in the back end, right? So you want to filter out individuals that only are in this age range. So you can use the filter method to only display those individuals on the screen, you know? Yeah. Right, so that's another method, the filter method. The other one that I want to look at is the reducer method. Let me create a function that I'm going to use to run it. Function add numbers. Okay, add numbers. Call it add nums. Okay, call it add numbers. Okay. So for that function, I'm still going to take advantage of this array. So I'll say const sum. It's going to be array of numbers. Array of numbers. And then it also takes a callback function. And this callback function takes the accumulator, takes in an argument called accumulator, and then current value. And just to use this to explain more, console.log element template literal accumulator is and the current value is going to be current value. So I want this function to return the accumulator plus the current value. Okay, and then I can console log the sum here. Connect to the console the sum. Okay. So let me run this function. So the accumulator in this array, just before I run it, let me explain. The accumulator is the first item in the array, which is at index 0. Okay, in this case it would be 0. My first item is 0. Oh, let me just change here, just not to confuse you. Let me modify this array a bit. So my first item in this array is 1 now, right? So my accumulator is 1, which the first item at index 0 would be the accumulator, and the next item at index 2, sorry, at index 1. First item at index 0 is the accumulator, and the next item at index 1 is the current value. Okay. So if I run this function, add event listener, I'm now going to run add numbers. Iterate. Array add numbers is not the function. Array of numbers. Okay. It's going to be array.reduce. Okay, forgotten to add the method. It's going to be a reduce method. It returns the sum for my case, for our case. Okay, run it. Perfect. So what it does, it's going to take the first value, okay, of the array at index 0, which is the accumulator, and then it will add the current value, which is the next value, which is 2. 2 at index 1 is the current value. So here it returns the sum, which is going to be 3. Now, after getting 3, 3 now becomes the next accumulator, and the current value will now become 2, right? So it will add 2 to 3, and that's give us 5. Then 5 will come back, it will iterate again, 5 will be the accumulator, and then current value will be 3. So it iterates over all the items in the array doing that same manipulation, and at the end it gives us the sum. So you can see here, the accumulator is 1 and the current value is 2. Accumulator is 1, the current value is 2. In the second iteration, the accumulator is 3. So that is the sum that I get. That's the return value of accumulator plus 3, plus the current value, which is 3. And then the current value will become 3, which is the next item in the array. Okay, so it does the same thing. So it adds them, it gives us 6, and 6 will be now the new accumulator, and the current value will then become 4. So that's how it does. It iterates over every item, and then it will give you the sum. Okay. So this is the method behind teller machines, how like applications that use accounting applications, like the ones you'll meet in a supermarket, in a grocery store, where you buy all items and they get the prices, and in the end you get the total. So this is the method that will be in that application, that will be adding up every item, and at the end you get the sum on your receipt. Okay, so that's called the reducer method. For this case, it returns the sum of all the items of all the numbers in the array. For our case, but you can use it to do anything, right? Here I'm just like adding. I can have the accumulator and multiply it by the current value. Okay, I can have the accumulator and divide it by the current value. Let me just do this for you to see. So now I'm multiplying it. Okay, the values are going to be different. Look at this. 1, the current value is 2. 1 times 2, I get 2. That becomes my accumulator. My current value is 3. 3 times 2, I get 6. The current value is 4. 4 times 6, I get 24, right? Now if I do division, to give me different values. Okay, same thing. If I do subtraction, same thing. So you can use it to do any operation, any mathematical operation. Well, one thing for sure is that it will give you the final value, which is what you'll be interested in your app or whatever you're doing it with. Okay, so these are some of the methods I could teach in this tutorial for the sake of not making it too long, but there are surely many methods. An array is a versatile data type that has very methods on it that you can use to manipulate it. I will link URLs to this website where you can read more about all these methods and try them out on yourself to learn more. Knowing them is very good. Using them in your applications, applying them to meet your particular use cases in your applications makes work very easy and great. So I would advise you to know some of them. Like I've said, I'll link in the description this URL, and also link other resources that you can read more. I'll also link the description. I'll also link the URL to the GitHub repo onto which I'm going to post this code so that you can access it if you need to. Thank you for following up, watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.